Right.
because I got my bills paid, I got this, I got that, and then they wind up leaving all their potential on the table. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to get the book out. It's like, why not? And I remember when I was in the mode of meeting the folks, the professional people that help you put your book together, right?
The people,
the book dude people, whatever that is. And I remember pulling up, had my rental car. I already paid for my flights and all this to meet these folks. And I pulled up in front of the office and I'm like, okay, let's go get this on. And then Heather, at that moment, the most incredible hurricane of self-doubt rolled over me like I've never experienced. And this is, I've had some accomplishments at this time. So, the voices were like, who do you think you are, you little hairdresser boy? You're not, are you Steve Jobs? Are you like the richest people in the world? You got $10 million in the bank, man? You get your ass back in that car. You have no right to tell anybody anything. And I closed the door really fast and I'm like, I'm out of here. I don't have any right to tell anybody anything. And then I stopped for a second and I was like, wait a minute. You've been teaching people, working with people. You've got way heavy hitter hairdressers you've taught. I mean, you practice what you preach now, man. Get out of the car, follow this part of your dream and go get this book done. And it took me another minute or so to even get out of the car, Heather. And finally, once I got out of the car, I'm like, okay, that's it. The point being is anytime there's something in life that one wants to do, you want to start your own podcast, you got to get out of the car.
Yeah. You
want to open your own salon, you got to get out of the car.
I'm so excited to be joined today by Bennie Pollard, an absolute legend in the industry. I have the pleasure and honor of recently reading the book that he sent me, Small Business for the Rest of Us, which is an excellent read for those of you who want to get your hands on some information about how to really show up and kick ass, not take excuses and go for it. I'd love to know, just to start off with, one dude's journey, by the way. The subtitle is great. So tell us, dude, Bennie Pollard, tell us what inspired you to write this book. And I'd love to share some of the takeaways I've had from it, but I want to know what made you decide that you'd put this story of your life and your experiences into words and produce it for the rest of us.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of heavy lifting in there that I felt was something important to share with the public. As I grew in my career, I recognized that a lot of folks, will feel that their past circumstances or their upbringing, defines them. And I recognize, like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Everybody's got different backgrounds, different upbringings and so forth. And some might feel some are heavier than others. And how do you get started and how do you look forward? And there was, I mentioned to my mother, and when I was preparing for that, I'm like, I'm going to write this and share our story.
Right.
And, make sure that you're good with it. And she was like, I'm good to go. So, hopefully it means something to the reader and they can see themselves in some aspects of it. But there's a lot of failures in there and there's also some wins. So, it's okay. And it actually doesn't matter how much success you've had or not had. You have a story and it's imperative to share it.
Thank you for sharing your story. Even as I was reading and just the beginning about it, there's some definite things that I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh, I didn't know, honestly, that I would find some overlap or any kind of common ground in that. I just know that you got 6 NAHA nominations, a couple of wins. You're a big deal. You've got this cool beauty consulting. You've been in distribution. You've owned a salon. I mean, there's a lot that you've accomplished in your career. I grew up in a single wide trailer next door to a meth lab. We had trick-or-treaters, and this is no joke, that fell under our house because it was up on blocks because it's a trailer. And I remember a big storm. I'm from Phoenix, in the Phoenix area, and it was in a place called Apache Junction, but a big kind of dust devil ripped through, and we don't get tornadoes really much, but it was a strong windstorm, and like the roof came off of our house, and our house was a little like $10. And I appreciated reading about the humble beginnings you had, and I think especially it stood out to me. I mean, the way you write, the way you talk in the book is very relatable, but also kind of like no nonsense. It's like, quit whining. What's your excuse? Did you want it or did you not want it? Are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? I don't care what that was. Where are you going? And there's something in it that I find very resonant also to how I was raised by my dad, kind of having the same thing. He always would say the past doesn't equal the future. You talk a bit about fear and like, no fear is not just a slogan. I like how each chapter you've got like a takeaway, a bulleted thought or something that's going to really be motivating and connected with no matter your circumstance, like you talked about. But, I grew up in poverty. And I think a lot of people, well, I didn't go to Disneyland more than 3 times growing up. They think they're in poverty. And I mean, I grew up in abject poverty as well. And that was part of my background and part of it that shaped me. So reading that's your history as well and how your mom single mommed it. You said she had 5. Is that right?
5 of us, yeah.
5. Oh, bless her heart.
I know. Holy Moses.
Hard. Wait, also, what was she? And then she single mommed it and she figured it out. And I think seeing that, there's some of the rough things from the difficulty or dysfunction of the upbringing that like shaped you, but then also seeing she figured it out, she did it, you figured it out, you did it. I think there's some very empowering messaging, like you said, no matter where you came from, no matter if you become an award-winning multi-salon owner or somebody who has something that looks like clout on a bio, which you have, right? You've turned into that, right, Benny? But even if that's not what you have going for you, you still have a story. There's something redemptive about what we go through. And so I'm very appreciative of what you shared and a lot of the lessons that resonated in there.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And, the interesting thing is it's a story is an ongoing thing. And we all have whatever idiosyncrasies about it. And, when I think back, to folks that it came from, nothing and built something. And I also want to give credibility or give credit to folks who have come from something well and still did well. I mean, tenacity is still tenacity, regardless of the background. So a cheers to anyone who's made their way. The thing about, watching, how my mom, lived and what she did was, for lack of a better way of saying it, she didn't really know any different. I mean, this is what you did. I asked her later in life, I said, how in the world did you even do that? And she goes, we didn't know any different. It's just what you did. Yep. And there was no other point of reference, right? That was how her family was raised. I mean, not quite as dramatic in some situations there, but in general, it's like, that's what you did. You got 5 babies, you raise them, you go to work, you teach them how to work, you do your thing, and that's what you do, right? And she did what she knew to do and no more. And, the thing about a lot of folks that it's really interesting to be successful at any level. It's a lot of folks. It never even occurred to them that they could be successful. Didn't even occur to them. Like, I'm going to get a job and I'm going to do this, then I'm going to retire. Now, social media has upended the apple cart a little bit in that situation because there's a lot of information on how to become more successful. But generally speaking, if a person is dialed in at X amount of dollars per week, and that's how they built their lifestyle around it, there's no really impetus to go get more. Right. Because I got my bills paid, I got this, I got that, and then they wind up leaving all their potential on the table. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to get the book out. It's like, why not? And I remember when I was in the mode of meeting the folks, the professional people that help you put your book together, right?
The people,
the book dude people, whatever that is. And I remember pulling up, had my rental car. I already paid for my flights and all this to meet these folks. And I pull up in front of the office and I'm like, okay, let's go get this on. And then Heather, at that moment, the most incredible hurricane of self-doubt rode over me like I've never experienced. And this is, I've had some accomplishments at this time. So, the voices were like, who do you think you are, you little hairdresser boy? Are you Steve Jobs? Are you like the richest people in the world? You got $10 million in the bank, man? You get your ass back in that car. You have no right to tell anybody anything. And I closed the door really fast and I'm like, I'm out of here. I don't have any right to tell anybody anything. Right. And then I stopped for a second and I was like, wait a minute. You've been teaching people, working with people. You've got way heavy hitter hairdressers you've taught. I mean, you practice what you preach now, man. get out of the car, follow this part of your dream, and go get this book done.
Yeah.
And it took me another minute or so to even get out of the car, Heather. And finally, once I got out of the car, I'm like, okay, that's it. The point being is anytime there's something in life that one wants to do, you want to start your own podcast, you got to get out of the car.
Yeah.
You want to open your own salon, you got to get out of the car. And, that's the biggest takeaway, I think, from sharing my story and some of my stuff. And, talking about getting your ass beat for years, before something really starts to unfold. But I'm really glad that you felt the way, about that book, because that was my intention. I wanted people to see it and be able to see some parts of their own stories. And, we're only here for so long, and if you can make some sort of, mark, and I like that about doing books and speaking and so forth. And, as a stylist, we take care of our client one client at a time. And we look after them, we love them, we lift their self-esteem, and they leave.
Yeah.
Let's say as a salon owner, say a person wants to become a salon owner, so they become a salon owner. And now all of a sudden I have 6, 8, 10, however many stylists that I'm working for and I'm working with and I'm looking after. And then they have their clients they have all day long. So now my influence just grew again. So, and then, my journey, it was, becoming a speaker and a platform artist and so forth. And all of a sudden I have rooms of 100 to 50 to 200 and however many people you have. And then authoring the book and getting the story out there. And now it's an unlimited point of influence. So however many people choose to read it, you can influence. And that's my firm belief in this industry. It's so vast. Look at both of us right here. We both know how to cut good hair, do some good color. And we've got these, these tentacles that we're reaching out to influence and leave our industry better than we found it.
Yeah. And I would say even just anybody we touch, like you mentioned, sure, it's our industry, which I think is clearly a huge point of impact because of how that ripple effect goes. Sandra Humphreys is one of my mentors, and she works for Cal Corporation. I'm an educator for Goldwell, so that's how I get to know her and associate with her. And she talks about the butterfly effect and just how like one little
right
here and how that just keeps going and going and going. So not only within our industries, but with any of the people that we talk to or that we touch through our industry, that get out the car. I like that kind of idea or that analogy. You mentioned, the no fear, just go for it. That's something that you've got to really embody if you're going to get anywhere in this life. And I remember my dad would listen to motivational tapes because that's what they were back in the day. They were tapes. There was no Instagram. And, I believe it was Anthony Robbins. And this is when Anthony started his career as this mega what he is. And it was face the fear, feel the pain, and do it anyway. And my dad would say that to him so often. Face the fear, feel the pain, and go do it anyway. And so I was raised with that kind of a motto, get out of the car, so to speak. It's incredible to hear. And I'm grateful that you share that you had what people kind of refer to as imposter syndrome when you're going to that publishing house or to the big book guys, to the big book. Who are you? Get back in the car, sit down. What do you know? It doesn't matter that you have all these nominations or these awards, or these people you've coached or these people you've touched. And I think that that's really helpful to hear. And I hope that anybody listening hears you and hears you clearly on that it's hard to get out of our own way after years of it being in an industry or after years of pouring your life into something. Doesn't matter what we do, thinking, what do we even really know anyway? And the truth is, spoiler alert for everybody listening, I don't know anything. And that is my superpower. I know that I don't know, so I ask a lot of questions, but I think that asking those right questions and then just being brave, getting out of the car, so to speak, and giving it a try. It's very inspiring.
Thank you. It takes a ton of courage just to simply ask the question. Right. And my philosophy on fear has matured a little bit over the last few years. And, that I look at, I've been breaking everything down lately into threes. So we think about fear, those like 3 levels, 3 sections, 3, whatever. The first one is simply recognizing it. Like, okay, I see you, fear. I know you're there. You scared the crap out of me. I got you. I know you're there. That's first. The second one is recognizing that fear is always going to be.
Yep.
And it's like an old friend. It's like, hey, old friend, how are you doing? Okay, here's what we're doing. We're going to go here now. So you got to sit in the back seat. I do the driving. And I know you're going to be there. So you might as well come on for the ride. I get to map it and I do the routing.
Yes.
And then the third part of it is recognizing that the fear that I had yesterday will be different than the fear that I have tomorrow. The topics will be different. What scared me at 25 is different than what scares me at 40 or whatever. And that's an ongoing evolutionary thing. And it's always and forever. And I also believe that there's never really an arrival. There's never an arrival. We're not going to arrive anywhere. We're just simply going to continue to go through the journey, and hopefully the journey, we're not hopefully, by design, our journey will be moving forward, and it'll flip flop a little bit, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what industry we're in. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is that we recognize what's going on between our ears and do our best to get a hold of it and walk it forward, because it is a decision, and you got to learn to live with, discomfort,
These are pivotal, and really, I mean, these are massive concepts you're hitting on that are so universal. You sound like someone, and I'm not asking you and I'm not calling it out, but I have been a student of what's called internal family systems or parts therapy, and used an analogy just now that is absolutely like what my therapist would talk about. It's like that piece of you, that part of you, whether it's fear, whether it's anxiety, whether it's anger, whatever it is, it's here. You're inviting it to be part of the drive. It's on the drive. Go ahead and take the back seat. Trust me that I, as a sovereign adult, or being self-led, that's what they call it in this type of therapy. Being self-led, that means you're really aware of what's going on and you're charting the course. But you know that everything else going on inside of you is part of your inner world, and it's not. You can't chuck it out the back window while you're driving down the highway. But integrating it, helping it be empowered that like we've got this and we're going to go there, and it's not going to go away, but we're going to embrace it and we're going to handle it differently. And you reference like looking at things in threes, and I loved part of the book where you talked about the three questions that you use to examine your inner life. And first of all, if we aren't stopping long enough to be introspective, to gain in self-awareness, and this is a bit of what you talk about in the themes, where knowledge is nothing, applied knowledge is everything. And I have said this over and over. That's why so much of this book was resonating. Over and over, I'll tell people, I don't care what you want. I don't care what you know. I don't care what you hope for. I mean, I do. I care about people. Do you know what I mean? But I'm saying none of that tracks. What I care about is how you show up and how you execute. I care about what you do, because I could be sitting here, chain smoking 3 packs a day, eating donuts and guzzling soda and being like, I just want to be healthy and I want to feel really good. And what I'm saying doesn't track with what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is what really matters. And so I like that you talked about, and then like the three-part question that you ask, when something pops up like doubt in your mind, where did this come from? Is it true? And is it going to help me? And I think that's important to ask when we're about to speak too, not just when we're speaking in our inner dialogue, but where's this idea coming from? How did I adapt or adopt this? Is it true? And is it helpful? Because maybe it's true that you've never written a book, that nobody knows who you are, and you don't have $10 billion in the bank account. Steve Jobs, sit down. Maybe it's true, but is it helpful to your objective and your sacred mission that you have to bring forth? Those 3 questions I think are really impactful. And I love how you accentuate self-awareness, and I would say accountability is kind of what I would kind of label what you're talking about as that follows. Where did you grow and develop those skills? Like you said, some of us just wake up, we clock in, we clock out, we go home. We don't know any different exists. If we don't see it modeled, and if we don't see someone being aware or accountable, it's really hard for us to get there. So where did you get this mentor? Where did you see this modeled, or what was your inspiration to really make those things a part of your life every day?
I think, growing up the way I did, there was a certain scrappiness that I developed. There was, where I was making my own way as a almost a preteen, really. In our particular neighborhoods, and that was number one. And so I had a sense of motivation as a kid, being self-reliant, and then I think that having that go get it a little bit, I couldn't identify it at the time, but that's what it was. And then that drove me to my first employer, who was a fantastic woman. She had immigrated, I believe, from South Korea, and relocated to the States and built a great salon. And I had the opportunity to work as her assistant. And, one day we had a perm special. And I'm going to date myself a little bit. Do like $1 gazillion a day doing permed everything that moved. If it had a pulse, it got a perm. And and at the end of this long 10 hours perm special day, she says, I want to take everyone to dinner. So she's going to take us to her favorite Korean restaurant, which to this day, I don't know if I can match that flavor experience at that moment. And then when we got in her car, she punched in the cassette tape, and it was a guy named Zig Ziglar.
Oh, yeah.
And I first heard Zig Ziglar. He was, I think he might have been Tony Robbins' mentor. And I'm listening to Zig Ziglar, and he says some things like, the more people you help get what they want, the faster you get what you want. Whatever you think about is what happens for you. Whatever you're thinking becomes you. Your words all this type of it's general truth. And I'd never heard that before. I developed good work ethic and good go get it. And once I heard this stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to more. And then I started a lifelong journey of studying, what is it that makes someone do things? I mean, why are these two people both equally talented, equal skills, equal intellect, equal everything? And one goes straight to the stars, rocking and rolling, and the other one just goes from job to job to job. What's the difference and what makes that tick? That's number one. Number two, standing behind the chair, Heather, and meeting people. And I purposely put myself in more affluent salons, right? So, because I wanted a little higher elevation in clientele and pricing and so forth, ambitious for income, the amount of money I wanted to make. And I would have these, really great looking people, very attractive people sitting in my chair telling me how ugly they were. Now, that's a strong word, but I almost never got anything positive from them about themselves. It was, this is wrong. My face is this. I can't do this. My hair won't do this. I can't do this. And I was just stunned. I'm like, who told you that?
Yeah.
Who told you you can't have this? And what I discovered was no one had told them that. And that's where that first question came from. Where'd that thought even come from? And whenever you question yourself, and I call it the 3-question exercise, any thought you have, run it through 3 questions. And I'm like, where'd that thought come from? You know what? Here's a great example. Here's how I usually exercise this. So I'm speaking to a group of stylists, and that's generally my audience I speak to. Sometimes it's outside stuff, but mostly stylists. And I'm like, how many of you are like fantastic at remembering names? Raise your hand. I get 3 hands out of a room of 100.
Yeah.
I said, okay, how many of you are absolutely terrible? I mean, you suck at remembering names. Raise your hands. The rest of the room. I'm like, wow, okay, there's a whole bunch of you. So here's my question. Now, I want you to think about this question. When did that happen to you? They're like, well, what do you mean? I said, when did that happen to you? Was there a life event or something dramatic or something that happened to you that caused you to not remember names, right?
Yeah.
What happened, right? And then they're all looking at me like I got 3 heads, right? And I'm like, I said, here's the deal. If we can't answer they're the origin story of the thought, there's no facts behind it, then can it be true? And they're like, I never thought about it. Somewhere along the line, you decided for some reason that you couldn't remember names. And you've been carrying that water the whole time. Now, the third question is, if you can't have an origin story, then it can't be true. Then if I carry it, is it good for me or bad for me? And when we exercise some of these thoughts that way, we have a tendency to have a little more clarity, right? And once that starts to happen, even the most mundane thoughts you might be carrying around, you run it through that exercise and you can exit them.
Right.
And then sometimes you'll run across something that's like, okay, that's a good thought. So, I mean, think about standing in the middle of an expressway. Are you going to get killed or are you not going to get killed? Everybody thinks you're going to get killed. I'm like, okay, is it true? Well, of course it's true. So where's it written? Where's the guarantee that that's going to happen to you if you stand in the middle of the street? There isn't one. So it may or may not be true. I mean, there's no guarantee. So the point being is that's a thought that we can't have any proof, but is a good one. Keep that one and don't stand in the middle of the damn street.
Yeah.
And so there's a myriad of these types of things that can run through our filters. People talk about paying off debt all the time, and I hear this a lot. I'm going to pay off debt. I'm going to pay off debt. And so the thought is, I'm going to pay off debt. I'm going to pay off all my debt. I'm going to pay off all my debt, pay off all my debt. And then they start cooking and they pay off on their debt. The issue with that is that the brain has now been trained to be in debt payoff mode. So it goes and gets more debt so it can do what it's been told, which is pay off debt. So it stays in this little circle of pay off debt, pay off debt, pay off debt. When actuality, the better internal dialogue should have been, I'm financially free. I'm a great investor. I invest my money, or whatever it might be. Or I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. So the brain generally is going to give us whatever we tell it. So we have to be pretty observant at whatever dialogue's happening in there, because that's the most important conversation we're going to have, period. I mean, there's no one else is going to be even more conversation than the one we've been given the gift and the ability to think. And so it's important for us to do that.
So this awareness is
right.
And you mentioned Zig Ziglar, finding a mentor. What's really cool, I think, about our access to information right now is that we can find those types of mentors anywhere. Accessibility is at an all-time high, information and that type of free exchange of information. Not all of it's good, but there's information abundantly available. And so for us as a species to be able to seek that out and to really see, like, I don't have any role models in my family. I do now, but as a kid growing up, in my immediate family or the people I was associating with, none of them had graduated college. They're all right. There's nothing wrong with being blue collar, because I do hair. I'm in a blue collar profession. Thank you very much, and I'm proud of it. As a CEO of multiple businesses, I'm still a blue collar girl, right? But I did not see modeled I didn't see women in positions of power growing up. You graduated beauty school in '83 or around then, right? You started in the salon field in '83, and that's
I appreciate you saying that.
That's when I was born. And you know what? I think because if you're not watching this episode, whatever Benny's doing to his skincare and his thought process, he's thinking every single day, I look youthful and amazing and vibrant, because that's
what I do. That's what I do.
You got a supercomputer. But anyway, I didn't see a lot of that modeled. And I think if you're walking around unconscious, or I know if we're walking around unconscious and we're just going with whatever programming, that story, like you said, we all have a story to give, to share, or to write, whether or not we actually put pen to paper. The story that we're talking about and the story we're telling ourselves in our minds and our internal world every day has a massive impact. And that awareness alone, we are walking around with the most incredible supercomputer. What's happening between years? My dad always says, like, all you really need to worry about is the gray material in your skull and what you're doing with it. And so I do think that what you're touching on here is so critical. Our thoughts feed our feelings. That controls our actions and our behaviors. And you're talking about the clientele and like the high end affluent areas, and these beautiful people with access to everything, and they sit down and they go like this. Oh, it's just like this kind of a thing, and you're like, whoa, man. And when I see people like that, I just want to hug them and be like, shh. I want to just hold them close and say, it's okay. But how many of us walk around with amazing, unlimited potential that's untapped because of the stories we're telling ourselves? I'm bad at things, or I'm not very brave, or I'm not great with people, or I don't really know how to run a business. And I think that there's something really, really beautiful about putting into our computer and reprogramming our supercomputer with those kind of streams of consciousness that will elevate what we're doing, what we have access to, and how we impact other people. That's such a huge part of what you do and what you have done, regardless of your background. And I always really find that so inspiring. Like you said, I do appreciate how you touched on people who come from a lot and they still continued with their determination. And grit is grit no matter what, because there's a lot of people who come from a lot and they blow it all and they mess it up. So it's important to realize we are individuals no matter what we came from, no matter what we were given by way of intelligence, looks, natural skill, or anything else. What really matters is how we show up and what we do to apply it. So I don't really think any of us start with a deficit. If we really look at it, there's always a benefit and a gift. And yeah, some of us come with massive privilege and we come with a huge kickstart in life. And some of us come from a very huge deficit. And I think sometimes the people with the most privilege, who are not aware of it, who aren't conscious of how they can control their thoughts, they actually have the biggest deficit of all. So it's cool to know that you can equalize the playing field when you know how to program that computer. I love it. I would love to talk. I want to just pick your brain all day about all of the things that you've done to shape your thought process and your patterns, because I think it is so inspiring. And I'm grateful you've opened up and shared about that. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk a bit about like the different brands you've built. You have successfully built brands, including distributorships, running a successful salon, a consulting business, also multiple award winning. So you've won 2 NAHAs, which are the North American Hairdresser Awards. For anybody who was like me a few years ago and didn't even know what that was, I'd love to know what sparked your passion for doing more creatively and within the business beyond doing hair. Like, when did you decide there's so much more out there you want to reach into?
That thank you for setting that up. There's a great storyline there on where that actually happened. When I left my very first employer, she was fantastic, and I started getting a little full of myself. I think we do that a lot in youth. I'm like, I'm going to go take over the world. And I literally stumbled upon a modeling agency that had a salon connected to it for convenience for them mostly. Yeah. And then also connected to a photography studio. And so I'm like, you know what? I think I want to do that. And so I went over and talked to the owner of the agency in the salon, and I wound up working there. And then across the hall was this photographer who has become a lifelong friend. Actually, I just lost him just a few months ago. A lifelong. I mean, I first met him in like 1984, I think, somewhere there. And that's what really turned me on when I first was made privy to, wait a minute, that's a whole industry too. Doing the hair for the photography and blah, 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 models. And, 2 really important things happened for me at that moment. I was introduced to public speaking and the power of speaking. And I was introduced to the power of putting your work on film at the time. I still like to call it film. And those 2 things were monumental and pivoting for me, because in the modeling agency, it was a school and an agency and it's a whole thing. And I would be the stylist that would teach the young and up and coming models on how to care for their hair. Nice. So I would, like, every couple of weeks, I'd have 20, 15-year-olds and all their moms too, by the way. That was right. So within about 6, 8, 10 months, I had like a monster clientele. And that was one of the things that really helped launch my career in general too, is understanding that public speaking is a beast. And if you can articulate yourself and get your ideas across, then that gives you the opportunity to really share your ideas with the public. So we did that. And then working with, his name was Ed Brown, by the way. And actually this past NAHA, he had passed away. They put him on the screen and said, I tip my hat to you. So
I remember that. Cool.
I'll try not to start bawling. No. Yeah. Oh, awesome.
And thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Losing someone we love that deeply, or that's impacted us so much, it should give us pause. And so thanks for honoring him and sharing what he did to impact you.
Oh my God. We did all of our NAHA. There was 3 of us. We did, and my general hairdressing team with me, but my makeup artist and my photographer, Ed, Lisa Miller's her name. And she was the main makeup artist for all my NAHA stuff, all the nominations, all the wins, everything. And Ed was the photographer. So it was like this power trio we had for a long time.
Dream team.
But I want to go back for just 1 second and go into 1995, maybe. I'd had my salon for about 3 or 4 years. Didn't have a damn clue what I was doing. I was the super busy hairdresser that said, I'm going to go start my own business. I put fear in the backseat, started the damn thing, and then just got beat to death for 4 or 5 years, learning, the ropes to be a business person and understand how to build a team and so forth. And then one day I'm looking at, I'm looking through the modern salon and I see, the NAHAs, right? And I'm looking at the work. And by this time I'd been shooting my work for, a handful of years, actually almost 10 by this time. So I understood the process of creating the image and making something nice. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this NAHA. And here's the power. I think the power of the mind. And again, this was all genesis of, the Zig Ziglars of the world, is when I started looking at the magazine and I'm sitting in my office, the store's already closed. And actually, it wasn't even closed. It was we were closed that day. I was in doing some extra work stuff. And I'm looking through this modern magazine. This is, prior to social, of course. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at the winners, and there were some of my heroes that I really appreciated, globally. Their work was in there. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm coming after you people. Just wait. I'm going to be there in a minute. And then I started rehearsing. I wrote my acceptance speech.
Wow.
And I literally started rehearsing it that day, that probably a Sunday afternoon, looking at the parking lot and the salon, outside this door of the salon, rehearsing out loud this acceptance speech. And I get the goosebumps. I'm feeling it. So the minute you articulate a goal or an ambition and you can feel it in your body, the body is the main gig. You got to get the body involved. Once you start feeling it, the universe just goes, okay, let's go get it. So we shot. My first year was 1995, and we got nominated first time. At the time, it was a makeover category, which I think they've changed to haircutting now. Mm-hmm. And so we go in, and they don't call our name. My makeup artist, my good friend Lisa, wins makeup artist of the year.
Yeah.
So we're all celebrating still, and it's all great. Just to even get in there that first time, I thought was cool. So we shoot the next year, we don't get in. We shoot the next year, we get in twice, 2 categories. Again, I pull my my speech, and I practice it, and we get up there and no win. 2 times, no win. I'm like, okay. We shoot again, didn't get in. We shoot again, we get in. Didn't win. So by this time, I'm like, wow, what is going on? Is this, at the time it was, what was the actress, the soap opera actress, Susan Lucci? Uh-huh. Something like 20 nominations, and she never won an Emmy or something. It was crazy, and Behind the Chair was pretty new at the time too, and they were interviewing us and so forth, and like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just going to keep going, until we get here. So I sat still and I continued to practice my speech, and I had it all dialed in. I was talking about my mom and my team and the whole thing, articulate, well run. And then we get nominated again, and we win. And so I get up and go do it, and okay, I get my speech, and it was great, and it was moving for the team, for my team and for the room. We shoot again, then get in, shoot again. A few times we didn't get in, then we got in again. And here's what's interesting: that second win, the collection was good, right? I had my heart in it; it was good. And I'm like, okay, that's a good one. That's a wrap. Let's put it in, see what happens. And I'd be damned it won. But when I got nominated, here's what's important about the power of the brain and intention. There's for many years, I still do it today, but a way I would close my workshop. So if I do a workshop and I've got, I don't know however many people, it could be 20 or it could be 200, I would always close it with this phrase. This practice. I say to you, I give you a sentence to the room, and then you say back to me the words "without us." I give you a sentence, you say "without us." And I'd been doing that for years. And what it was I was letting the stylist understand that there's nothing that's really happening in this world without us. Heather, there's not a movie made in Hollywood without beauty and hair on set. There's not any Oscars without us. There aren't any weddings without us. There aren't any proms without us. There aren't any Emmys, Grammys, nothing without us.
Time funerals, if I'm being honest. Hairdressers.
That's where I was going.
There.
That's the last one.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get it. I didn't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to take it from you. I haven't been to one of your speeches, but I'm hearing it. You can't. I'll send you without us.
I'll send you a link to one of them. So I said to myself, I'm like, okay. I said, universe, I've rehearsed everything. I've got it all done. The whole thing's all done, packaged up. It was done years ago. And I said, give me this moment. Let me get this moment. I know it's like, you let me have this moment. I'm going to move our industry. So let me have this for a moment. And we won. Yeah. And I went up there and I shared that. And it was a very important moment to me, because when I first started becoming a hairdresser, many of us has felt this. They're like, hairdresser? Boy, you're from Bullitt County, Kentucky. What do you think you're going to be a hairdresser? You can't make no money.
Why don't you do something with yourself, Benny? Where I was asked, why don't you do something with your brain? I got asked that a few times.
Oh, yeah.
Counselor, why don't you do something with your intelligence?
Yeah. We always got get a job at the local factory.
Well, and
get a job. I'm like, I don't want a job.
Even as a man, especially, like there's like the gender division that you probably faced, or that kind of, also going against you, where it's like, you're a man from the South. What are you doing?
Oh, my buddies they just killed me. But what was interesting, I never really cared about any of that. That just was like water off the duck's back. But the most important thing on that particular thing is, and I share this, whenever I have an opportunity, is because I closed my eyes, I saw it, I felt it, I went to work. Those collections at the time, especially, they were really expensive because we were shooting film and we had to do all the processing and, all this. And, now digital, I mean, it's still costly. It's not in the same league as it once was. I even shoot all my own stuff now. But it was a different thing. And to keep that momentum and to keep that persistence, there was a moment, and I share it in the book too, where I thought this is political. You got to know somebody to get in here and get this thing.
Right.
And I almost stopped. And I said, no. Where'd that thought come from? Is it true? Will it help you or hurt you? And, that helped, keep it going. And I like to share that because, you just got to keep going. You keep walking forward and you don't have to run. You don't have to charge. Simply keep going in the right direction. And hold steadfast to your faith. Even at this moment, this is with Cool Beauty, which is a fantastic company. And I have a fantastic business partner who I met like 20 years ago. His name's Jeff Petro. He leads the sales side of the company. We wouldn't be here with Cool Beauty without us both. And so I'm really grateful for that. My wife has been standing next to me then my entire career, and she works with us in the company. And, and I remember when I first started into the product side, I'll set this one up. You'll appreciate this one. I was literally on the national team for Goldwell in the 90s.
Oh.
Standing on a stage at a large distributor trade show. And I was a Goldwell fan, a Goldwell Salon, hair color. That was my thing. That's where I learned color. Actually, it was really learned color was through Goldwell at the time. I mean, I'm a colorist now, so it doesn't really matter to me. I have my favorites, but at the time I was working with those guys and I saw this cash register ringing. People were fans of the brand and I was teaching some really cool stuff. And I thought to myself, as an entrepreneurial thinker, I can do this. So with all my wisdom as a successful salon owner and hairdresser and platform artist, I'm going to go start a product company. I guess I can call it wisdom. I don't know. So I start this thing and I say to my wife, Maria, her name's Maria. And I say, Maria, here's what I want to do. And she said, well, how much is it going to cost? Everything. To do this the right way, I don't even know if it's the right way, but to do it's going to take everything. So we threw caution to the wind, tapped the savings and everything and went for it. And fast forward a few years, and I'm like, I'm not sure I like this manufacturer stuff. Because I was out in the field working with distributors and trying to get to the salons. And the whole goal was to get to the salons, right? One thing I discovered as a platform artist, Heather, was I can do great haircut classes for you, but if I'm not helping you build your business, then it's all for naught. And so I started doing business practices and started sneaking in, here's a cool haircut technique, and I'm going to come right around the back door and help you build your clientele.
Right.
Right. And help you understand how to charge. And that's what led me. It's like, if I can get close to the salons, then we can make a huge difference. And then when I met my business partner, Jeff Petro, that's exactly what he was doing. He was working for another distributor at the time. And he was actually working with the salons to get those guys to grow their business. I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
And I formed Cool Beauty in 2013 and we've been jamming ever since. And, the most proud thing I am of all is how many salons we've helped understand some business practices and grow their business, as opposed to how many doors that I open for that new product brand.
Right.
Because if I can't help them grow their business, and we can't help them understand how to move any type of really cool product. I don't care how cool the product is. If it doesn't get to the consumer, the actual person sitting in the chair, it doesn't make any difference anyway. Cool factor, who cares about cool factor? So to be able to facilitate a good business chain of events is really what we strive for. And it's called Cool Beauty. And it's called Cool Beauty because it's where your success is cool. Success is cool. To be successful at any level is to illustrate to the universe that you've utilized your talents. You've taken whatever talent it is, you've loved on it, you nourished it, you fed it, you looked after it. And because you've treated it that way, you become a little bit more abundant in the things that happen to you. And that's really what it is. And most folks, I've learned that I don't know if it's clear with them that it's cool to be successful. Sometimes modern media says if you're successful, you're greedy. I'm like, well, that's horseshit.
Yeah.
It's really, if I'm successful, I can contribute. If I'm successful, I can buy those shoes I love. If I'm successful, I can go out to that dinner. And when I go out to that dinner, that means the server made more money, the restaurant made more money, their suppliers made more money. It goes on and on and on and on. If I'm not successful, I can't contribute at that level. And creativity, you mentioned creativity earlier, and I appreciate that. And I want to take that word in two places. Creativity for the physical prowess of our industry, the art of it, the hair, the cutting, the color, etc. And then I want to take the creativity on this side of it and say, this is the business creativity. This is the creative thinking that helps you build a monster business. This is a creative thinking that takes your career path on this side for a while, right? Business is the ultimate creativity. To be able to understand how to truly put yourself together to appear to the public and be on purpose with intention on how you appear to the public. That's all creativity. You have to be creative and really disciplined in unleashing it at the right time.
What you speak of, Cool Beauty Consulting, you and Jeff, and that partnership that's been going on for a little over now 10 years.
About 12. Yeah, about 12. Yeah.
You're talking about it's a movement. It's not just we want to get hands in the product in the hands of consumers. It's about the impact. And I think when you're thinking about that impact, you do have to get very creative as in making art, producing something beautiful, interesting to look at or see or consume is one facet. And I love how you've blended in your talent and skill, being able to get creativity and business to be both creative outlets. Because if you've done business for more than 5 minutes, which you've done business for a couple of years now, a few decades, you've got to be very creative to stay in front of the adaptations, the breakneck speed that we're seeing industry shift, consumer desires and demands are shifting, the way what it takes and what's required to engage a team and to really maintain and sustain good business practices and leadership. Like every single inch of it is going to require creativity. And I think it's a unique skill set to be able to work between both sides of your brain and bring both of those to life. And you touched on discipline as well. What do you do, or what do you recommend to someone who's listening to this who wants to experience more of this success, to have more impact? How would you encourage them to hone in on that discipline, or what practices do you implement to really keep your momentum with discipline?
Well, the first thing I think would be, and I think the first thing would be let's look at the foundation of what builds success to begin with. What are the key building blocks? They're always and forever. And that's, there's several of the blocks to make the foundation. A couple that I practice, and I was sharing with my team earlier this morning too, is have a constant daily diet of business, personal development, inspirational, etc. As Zig said, which I loved, is wouldn't it be great? Actually, it is true. I'll say it this way first. Wouldn't it be great if the brain growled from hunger like the belly does? And actually, with a little practice, it does. It starts craving, inspiration and knowledge and so forth. And that's a daily diet. And I have a long reading list. And we put it out in our Cool Beauty Times magazine, various books we recommend and stuff to keep your fire burning. Because I don't care how bright a fire is, it's going to burn down. It's going to need some logs. You got to put some wood on it.
And oxygen.
And oxygen. You got to, yeah, good job. I appreciate that. You got to breathe, take it in. My little exercise room is, it's my inspiration, my library, my learning room, my physical body room. And I have a hand-drawn sign over it that says mind and body. Mind and body, baby. Look after this guy so that it'll look after this guy.
Yeah.
And that's number one. The second part of it is you simply have to control the stories or your own dialogue, because it'll flat talk you out of exercise. It'll flat talk you out of having that conversation with that coworker that you need to have. It'll talk you right out of all of it. And you have to be able to have that. It's practiced, and nothing I'm talking about is easy. Easy peasy doesn't mean squat. It all takes some concentration, some effort. And I guess the two words I would put to it the most is emotional intelligence. And understanding that will help anyone go a pretty good distance in what they want to accomplish. And I think I got answered your question somewhat there. But first of all, foundation, got to have the blocks. The idea of I'm going to post on social and I'm going to be a superstar, super busy. What I've learned is without the foundation, your post on social doesn't mean anything, because that person's going to come into your salon and now you're going to have to be a human being with them. You're no longer digital. Now you're in person, and you have to have the correct foundations on to be in person to be able to build longevity with that human being. And one of our trainings, actually, I did a workshop yesterday on this. It's called the 9 Elements of In-Person Branding. And it's nuts and bolts on how to be on purpose in person, so that your social media and your marketing escapades when they bring in those people, you keep them. That's what I mean by foundation. Well, what does that mean, Benny? What's the foundation? You got to make good eye contact. You got to smile. You got to shake hands firmly. That's the first transference of physical energy that you have in that relationship. And we've been greeting people shaking hands. We found there's images of people shaking hands in ancient Mesopotamia. That's how human and how important the art of shaking someone's hand is. And yet people will say, but Benny, I'm a hugger. Okay, me too. But I definitely want to know somebody a little bit before I start groping them, for crying out loud.
And that's how you and I are different, Benny. Just kidding. I mean, how did we get anywhere in life if we just don't start like a bear hug, tapping you to the ground? Yeah. Making these points of contact, though, like what you're saying, these foundational pieces.
Oh my God, it's so true.
And it's wild because you're saying this and like, we hope that this is basic, but the truth is the more time we spend, this way, the less time that we spend this way. And I think that we're on screen as we're doing this, by the way, but it is an art form or a skill that I think is very underrated. The soft skills.
Yeah. You know what? Go ahead.
No, I was just saying soft skills, it's referred to as soft skills, interpersonal things. Well, you can be the most brilliant human alive. You can be the best marketer on the planet. You can be the best at social media, and you can be really great at filters. But if you're not amazing in person, those doesn't matter what you know. If you're not good at this, you can't do anything.
You can't. And it has driven me crazy, especially the last 10 or 12 years, is, oh my goodness, you guys, people would ask me, this is before social. And I say before social, I mean, I have been doing this for a while, and we'd have absolute monster clienteles for all my stylists. I mean, just couldn't get an appointment, constantly having to increase prices because demand is out the window. And we did that for 25 years. And I'm very proud of that. I have since exited the salons to focus on cool beauty. Actually, my team that was there with me for 20 years bought the salon from me, and they're jamming right along. So I'm really proud of that too.
I love
that. The DNA still cooking. Yeah. And they're like, well, how do you get a stylist that books $2,000 a day? And this is like I'll say several years ago. And I'm like, how's that happening? Because I've been doing it for 20 years. I don't believe it. I've never seen it. And I've been all the best classes. And I'm like, well, there's a couple. I'm not really sure how to even answer you. This is how I was raised. This is how we did it. This is how my very first employer, Emmy, taught me to do it. And so this is how we do it. And it has to do with booking procedures, etc. More importantly, it had to do with the personal branding and the literal, I call it, one of the parts of the personal branding is called dialogue and delivery. How you say what you say and how to lead the client to their greatness. Because unless you can lead the client to their greatness, whether it's color, cut, whatever it is, unless you can do that and you can articulate that, I don't give a shit how good of a hairdresser you are, because it doesn't matter. But once you understand that, then you can move mountains. And Heather, 22, 23-year-old stylist, for years, we were only out of beauty school and they go through our program, et cetera. And that was the number one thing we would teach them: how to shake someone's hand, how to give a salon tour and articulate the various areas. And this is our color center. This is where we provide a custom color formulation for you and design exclusively for you. This is our cleansing center. This is our client's favorite part. This is where you get our signature shampoo, conditioning treatments, et cetera. And teach them the voice inflection, the volume or lack thereof, and how to really articulate their wishes and dreams for that person's look. That was the magic, not a 4-hour balayage.
You're talking,
and that's a hard drop on that one.
Yeah, you're talking about seduction. You're talking about how to finesse. I mean, I call it seduction, and meaning like you're guiding them on this sensory experience and then drawing them in and then telling them what it's going to do for them. I did not know we also shared the background here with the platform artistry with Goldel, which is so fun. I taught a class, what's today, Wednesday, Monday, at a beautiful salon in Texas. That was the main focus. I sprinkled a little bit of hair color and a cut in there, but it was all about the steps of how to really create a deep and meaningful connection, and how you really don't have that long to do it. And like you said, that point of contact, the shaking hands, and just like drawing that guest in. This is what you're talking about is so powerful. I kind of want to be a fly on the wall. Like maybe you need a camera crew for your next presentation or workshop, or I think it would be a real treat to hear you deliver a full presentation live, or even just watch some of the replays of what the work you've done, because I think it's very, it resonates. And you're talking about principles. This is a principle-based concept that transfers whether or not you're talking about presentation skills, the inflection of your voice, the withdrawal of the volume, how to really draw somebody in through your eye contact and what you're doing. This is great when you're on stage in front of a large audience. This is great if you're selling anything. It's great if you're selling yourself as a stylist. If you're a leader, how are you going to keep people engaged within your brand and your business? So, I mean, essentially what you're sharing about is very transferable to pretty much any industry. I mean, this is pertinent for parenting. I already referenced
everything.
I already referenced therapy, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. That's for dang sure. I remember when the children, I have 3 children, that when they were little, these were crazy kids. They're awesome kids. And, well, they do matter, and I haven't had their permission to share this. So I'll leave most of the details their own. But we were working with some developmental challenges, some intensities, and some exceptionalities. And I remember how heightened they would get. And I would get heightened trying to get their attention to like corral the zoo. And I learned the trick, which I would get really quiet and down their level when they were very escalated. I would say, "What's going on?" And they would be like this. "We want to kill each other," whatever it was. But I learned that dynamic that worked in parenting young children, let alone anything else. So I think that these are pretty universal principles that are really, really incredibly impactful. And you've got decades of practice in that thought space of how you're controlling what you're doing, in addition to the business side. I mean, I think it's such a gift that you continue to share in the industry and with your co-beauty consulting, like with the movement that you've created with Jeff. Keep this going for people. There's a lot in there. It's pretty cool.
Sometimes it's, I'm like, wow, okay, what are we doing? Oh, you get so close, it's hard to see what you're doing because you're in it doing it. So every once in a while you got to step back away and like, okay, you're doing okay. Okay, it's okay. You're doing it, and we've we've strived to align ourselves with brands that have some sort of connection to that. And one of the brands are really dialed into, the correct consultation processes. And what does it look like through the whole salon? And it's owned by a beautiful, powerful woman, that I've known her for years now. And well, the brand's called Euphora. So
Yeah.
I'll just get that out there. And so they're very like-minded on how we work with the stylists and how to create, success, the 8 steps to success and so forth. And, at the end of the day, the more people you help get what they want, the faster you get what you want. And, I've enjoyed being on here with you too, because, after first meeting you, I was like, wow, I like the strength I feel over here. This is good. What do you got going on? Let's talk some more. So that was good. And I think there's a certain law of attraction too, Heather. I mean, sometimes you wonder, how did I get here? What thinking did I have to have for these people to show up in my life? And where did that come from? And, you're like, wow, I didn't really realize how powerful that person was at that moment in my career, or even personal life for that matter. And the power of faith plays too. You got to believe in it. The power of faith is, I can't even see it. So I gotta, if I can't see it, then the only thing that would be there for me to believe in it would be faith.
Yeah.
And people say, if you can't see it, how can you believe it? I said, can you see electricity? No, you flip the light switch. You can't see it, but you believe it. It works, doesn't it? Yes, of course it does. And, some great speaker I got that from years ago. And I do want to share one thing about mentorship that I recently read, and I really appreciated it. It was, I'll articulate through my eyes, is 3 different types of mentors that we see out there. And the first mentor is the knowledge mentor. It's the mentor that has read all the books, they've watched all the videos, and they can share all that information with you. There's a lot of power there because that person has condensed a lot of information for you, packaged this, and reshares it. The second level is the level of a person who can be a mentor for you, who's literally lived in the world of greatness. So what would that look like? Michael Jordan's trainer. That person has lived in the greatness of Michael Jordan and been a part of that. So that person has a lot he can share, or she can share. So there's a lot of good information there. That's like a level up. And the third one, and I think is the most important one, and I really want all the viewers and listeners to really hear this one, especially in light of the amount of coaching that's available to us. The third most powerful one is the one that has actually walked in the shoes in which you aspire to walk. The one that has built the multi-million-dollar salons, the one that has literally been a speaker in front of it, whatever it is you aspire to do. They have lived it, they've done it, and now they can show you. Right. So the one that knows the stuff, the one that's lived next to the stuff, and then the one that's done the stuff. Get close to whoever's done the stuff as you possibly can, and always question everyone. Tell me about your accolades. Let me see. It's like a financial planner. Hey, I can help make you rich. Let me see your financials. Let me see your financials.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Well,
Have you heard, different ways of it being said, but don't take advice from someone who doesn't have the outcomes you're looking for.
Oh, right on.
You know what I mean? I have a friend who shared with me some thoughts about relationship, and I thought I appreciated them, and I think she had a point, and I realized I don't want the outcomes she has in relationships. So I'm going to take that to heart and take it with a grain of salt, and then maybe seek for mentors who have outcomes that I'm more interested in.
Right.
We all have different outcomes and objectives. Maybe we don't want to build a multi-million-dollar brand. Maybe we want to work the least amount possible and have the most time with our animals or our loved ones or in nature. Maybe we want to influence hundreds of thousands. The mentor you choose, it's like you said, who's done it, who's walked the walk. And when you talked about, they've been great, they've been next to the greatness, or they're just like the great, the great of it.
Yeah.
What I mean, I say all of the above, please. I would like check. And the truth is, talking to you, and this is not to flatter you, I'm just telling you the truth. Being able to spend an hour with you in this conversation, you've kind of checked each of those boxes, which I think is amazing. And I'm so appreciative of you sharing what your background is and sharing your work in that book. Thanks for getting out of the damned car. Thanks for opening. Yeah. Thanks for walking into that building, and thanks for writing that work and sharing your story, because it reminds all of us that we have a story. And even if the story is just what we share ourselves, where we're going to go from that is so impactful in what we're able to do. So thank you so much for your time. Before we wrap, please tell our listeners where we can find you. We will include all this in the show notes. So if someone wants to read more, we'll link your book. We'll link a little bit more about you. Tell us where
I
find you.
I appreciate that. It's Insta is at Bennie Pollard and at Cool Beauty Consulting. And it's coolbeautyconsulting.com. And it's Bennie, Bennie, at coolbeautyconsulting.com. And then the book is at coolbeautyconsulting.com and also Amazon. So either one's fine. We'd prefer you call us. We'll take care of you. And that's it. That's how you can get on with us.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for your time, for sharing a bit about your journey, your mentors, and everything else. It's been an incredible hour. I'm so grateful we got to share it together, and I can't wait for people to get a hold of this themselves.
Likewise. I appreciate you, Heather. Good work.